Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to lower my Z06. First, we have to complete the 500-mile break-in so we can hear what this flat plane crank V8 really sounds like. We're going back to like late 90s. But the very first time I went to the street races, I think it was down this road. This little turn-in over here wasn't there. This went all the way through, used to lead up to this road. This used to be Kofer's right here. Now it's another salvage yard, recycle yard, whatever you call it. But that road continued down here. This is still the original road. If you own one of these cars, you'll be seeing this a lot. So when you're pulling out of a driveway like this that you're not 100% sure of, go ahead and hit the button there. Well, look at the drop on that. If I'd have gone out there without the front lift, usually the navigation in these cars suck, or any car. Once you have nav on your phone, the ones on the cars never hold up. Maybe that was user error. Take me to LHT performance.
Okay, LHT performance. Let's go.
I just drove by and saw this mural on the wall, and I figured I would take a quick picture of that. That is neat, because you cannot see out of that glass at all. Look at that. There is no view at all. So we're at 499, getting ready for the tag to change. What will happen is that red line will lift and it will go over, and you'll see that red will be in the 8 range. 499. Our red line is now 86. First plan is to lower the car. I think this car would really benefit in the looks department just by dropping it. So 2 ways you can do it, and let's essentially talk about 2 different setups on the cars. This car has the axle lift. So in the front, you're going to drop it with a spacer, and the rear, you're going to drop it by adjusting the coils. If you don't have axle lift, you can drop the front and the back just on the factory coils. You don't need to buy any parts. This is factory height. It's 100% stock wheels and stock lip. I'm going to show you along the way, and let's get some measurements to show you what you're going to expect. We'll get some measurements from the front lip as well as the fenders down. So there's 2 ways you can lower this. One is to install springs. The other is to adjust it down on the coils. So this car has the factory axle lift. So on this particular car, you need to do a spacer in the front. On a completely level slab, let's just get a backup measurement front to the floor. Just under 27 3/4. Rear. Just under 29, that looks like 28 3/4. Let's measure from the lid in the front to the ground. Front, about 7 inches. This is something I would recommend. We've had these a long time. We've put these on every Corvette that's been in the shop. These are the rubber style, very, very basic pucks. They make really fancy aluminum ones that bolt to the car and stay on the car. And I think there is a benefit to any of those. If you leave the ones that run the car permanently, if you do take it to the dealership, I think it just makes it easier for the tech to jack up your car, less chance of causing any issues. Lightweight. All right, we got our front wheel off. This is what it looks like with the axle lift. This is our hydraulic line right here that is adjusting the axle lift, and then that is a sensor which obviously tells it once it's programmed for its height, its drop, so it goes to the same position. So this has to come out, and essentially we're going to be changing that bottom section right there. That's where our room comes from. There's a spacer that installs in there. On the rears, it is adjustable coils right here. They're just essentially a coil over. You got a lock right here, the small one, and then you're going to wind that larger one down. There's about 3/4 of an inch of thread there, hence why the front goes down 3/4, and then you can fine adjust it from there. But past experience, max is 3/4. That's all we can get. So the front requires spacers. This drops the spring perch. So the bottom of that hydraulic lift is actually sitting on this step right here. And this distance here is the amount it's dropping, which is about 3/4 of an inch. So the whole system has to come apart. The spring needs to come off. The one that is on the shock is a small version of this. I'll show you. Then this one goes on. This drop is in that spacer. It's going to take us down to this weld section right here. This is part of the front lift. This is the hydraulic line. This is the sensor I showed you earlier. Now, this is something you've got to really pay close attention to. You need the special tool to remove those pins, and then you need the special socket to get in here and remove this nut so you don't interfere with that wire. This is for your wire pin right here, and this is for the upper nut so you can allow the cable to come through here and still get to your wrench. This is the spacer that would be sitting right here. And this is the spacer that is dropping down right here. That's both of our shocks done. You can see the distance right here. Everything goes back together as it should. Back on the ground and saddle, let me get those measurements so we can use that as a comparison. And then we'll get it outside, get some outside perspective shots. So in the middle right now, we have just over 26 3/4 in the front. In the back, we have just under 28.5 on a flat slab. I'll show you this a little bit later, but we color matched the front lip to the carbon flash on the car. I had a couple of aftermarket lips and tried them and didn't like the way they fit. So this was a good option for me. In the peak right here, kind of dark where I'm looking, just under 6. I think that's about an inch drop. And then in the peak right here, right about 5.5. So it looks like it came down about an inch in the front. In the back, we measured it to be exactly 3/4. It does change the spring rate slightly in the back, so it might be closer to an inch. Beauty of this setup, car rides exactly the way it did factory. Factory springs, if you like the way your Z06 rides right now, this might be the best option for you because you're not changing spring rates, you're not changing the geometry of the suspension too much, and it has that aggressive look without being too much. It's really even, and I think that height looks perfect. Get right on it there. Height, I think, is on the money. That's exactly the way I wanted it, and I can confirm it rides exactly the way it did stock. One thing I might consider is maybe doing spacers in the back. Looking around the front, the height, the flushness, exactly the way I wanted it. I'll talk about this spoiler a little bit more in the next video, but I tried a couple of aftermarket spoilers and I wasn't happy with the fitment, and I wanted a bit of definition in the front. I didn't want carbon because this car has carbon flash, so I didn't want just random bits and pieces to be carbon fiber. But I will talk about that a little bit more, as well as some other little things. But that height, I think that's absolutely perfect. That looks exactly the way I wanted it, and it rides great. Super happy with that setup. So in this little divot right here, what I would do is hit the axle lift. It raises up the front, and then you can essentially remember it by pressing this arrow right here. And there you go. Now when you come up to this section right here, it's going to automatically raise the car, and then you're not going to worry about scraping. This is something that's really important to do, probably before you lower it. Go around town, go to your usual places, and program all these in. Then when you come back and you're lowered, you don't have a risk of scraping. Very, very good system. Probably way more useful than I expected. It wasn't something I was anticipating wanting on the car, but now I have it and I've seen the benefits. I would 100% recommend it. Like right there, that was a pretty good dip, no scraping. My street right here, I've already programmed that axle lift in, so you're gonna see that is the driveway. You're gonna see, there it goes, it lifts. So it's already raised, plenty of time to go through my driveway and not worry about scraping. If you haven't ordered your Z06, or if you're shopping, I would definitely recommend the axle lift, 100%. Setup, I think I possibly may do a 15 to 20 millimeter spacer in the back just to get that flush look. I possibly may take this to the track, and if I do, I'll remove the back spacer. But for side roads, cars and coffee, burping around, having fun, I don't think you're gonna have an issue with spacers, especially if they're the good quality variety. I'll show you more on that if we do that. Next thing we're gonna do is the rock guards for the side radiators and the front radiators. Yes, this car has 5 radiators. I'll show you that on an upcoming episode. And I'll show you which guards I chose, the fit and finish, and what they look like. And I'll talk more about spacers once I do a little bit of research and find out which is the best option. In the meantime, if this is something you want to do, you can get a hold of us. We can lower your Corvette either with springs or with spacers, and or both. Get a hold of us, lhtperformance.com. Enjoy your cars.